Donald Tusk today extended the EU's 2-week deadline for the UK to offer more money for the Brexit divorce bill. After talks with Theresa May in Sweden, the EU Council President said he still wanted concessions on cash and the Irish border before triggering trade talks next month. But he kicked a deadline down the road to early December after Britain rejected a 2-week warning issued EU negotiator Michel Barnier at the last round of talks. Following the talks today, Mrs May admitted there was still more work to be done ahead of the next full summit next month. On the sidelines of a meeting in Sweden today, she has met Mr Tusk, French President Emmanuel Macron and Irish Premier Leo Varadkar. Donald Tusk today abandoned the EU's 2-week deadline for the UK to offer more money for the Brexit divorce bill after sitting down with Theresa May in Sweden, pictured. Theresa May appeared to be struggling with her translation earpiece as the summit got underway in Sweden today. Donald Tusk, pictured centre with EU premiers in Sweden today, had a tough message for Theresa May in talks today. Mrs May grabbed a chat with French President Emmanuel Macron between sessions at the summit today. Mr Tusk said, discussed with PM Theresa May the calendar of Brexit talks. Only if UK makes progress by early December will I be ready to propose new guidelines on transition and future relations at December European Council. In today's talks, Mr Tusk and Mr Macron made clear they had not yet seen enough progress to move on to the next phase of talks. In another rebuke, Mr Macron insisted that more progress had to be achieved in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, Irish PM Leo Varadkar held his own showdown with Mrs May, complaining that Britain has not thought through its plans for the border with the Republic. The warnings come amid signs of a bitter row within government over how far to bow to Brussels' demands for more cash. Mrs May has already pledged to pay £20 billion into EU coffers during a 2-year transition period. But Cabinet Brexiteers Boris Johnson and Michael Gove are said to be resisting upping the offer without commitments from Brussels over a trade deal. In other developments today, Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson is in Ireland for bilateral talks. He is pictured on a visit to Trinity College, Dublin. At a joint press conference with Foreign Minister Simon Coveney, pictured, Mr Johnson dismissed Irish claims the Brexit transition should last up to 5 years. Labour would reset Brexit talks and put the single market back on the table if it wins power before March 2019, Shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir Starmer said today. Speaking at the Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, in London also suggested the UK could still be subject to the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in some instances. He said, "We have an incredibly weak government. I can't think of a period in time when a government has been this weak so early in the parliamentary 5-year cycle. Labour has to stand ready to take over, and if that were to happen we would reset the negotiations." He added, Labour would start the negotiations with options back on the table, including remaining within a customs union, subject of course to the negotiation, including a changed relationship with the single market, including a new role for the European Court of Justice or an independent court to oversee future EU/UK relationships.